Welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast, my friends, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. That's Blake. I'm Will. And today we're here to talk some Worlds Beyond Number, the Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One. And it's been a minute. It's been a minute, not only for this, but for just the pod in general. Now, we did have our weekly live stream last Friday, so it's not the first time we've sat back down recently, but first pod, and I want to say like over a month.
It's been a while.
Just because I had to miss the most recent Critical Role one.
Yeah.
And before that, it was like the week off for Critical Role. And then we had an extra week off for Worlds Beyond. So
that's right.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So it's good to be back, first and foremost. I'm excited to dive in. We'll talk about the episode here in a second, but just real quick before we dive in, as always, not just a couple quick announcements, and one just left me right there. Well, are we doing a Chris? This is all flooding into my brain. Are we doing like a Sunday Fun Day Christmas?
I was just thinking
at
about
some
that.
point.
I want to, but I'm also really overwhelmed this time of month. So I'm having a hard time like getting it all put together.
I feel that.
We had some suggestions in the chat, in the Discord about it. So it's definitely still on the table, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the typical announcements are join the Discord. We got Critical Role podcast coming soon. We're talking about Worlds Beyond here today, but also potentially some Sunday Fun Day Christmas watch parties this month at some point. Be on the lookout for that.
Speaking of Christmas, man, it's the time of year that I do not like, but by the way, that's a really loaded start of a sentence.
Is that just full stop? You're done?
Yeah. When people ask, hey, what do you, like my mom messaged me and was like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? And like every year I'm like,
yep.
I don't know.
That's exactly me. It's exactly me. But it's my family. It's Ashley herself, and then also her family. Because we do like Secret Santa with her family, where we just you make like a little list. And I never know what to put on that list, so they always yell at me like, "Add stuff to your list." So
I thought about a coffee subscription.
Oh, that's cool.
Like Onyx Coffee for like 3 months or something, which is pretty cheap. It's like $60.
That's a good idea. I didn't even think of that.
And then the other thing I was thinking about, well, I wasn't thinking about anything else. I was just thinking like, I feel like when I was a kid, I had like just endless things, and I was like, I want this and I want that. And I don't know. I guess as I've gotten older, I'm just like, I don't really know.
Yeah, I think you and I are similar. I don't think this is true of everyone, but I think you and I are similar in this respect, where it's like, I don't know. The only things like I would quote unquote want would be like very big purchases,
Yeah.
Like I'd love a new computer, but like, that's not something you ask somebody else for. You know what I mean?
That's a great example. Cause I was thinking, what do I want? I want a new GPU, $800. Okay.
Right.
So probably not that. I'd love a new car, so.
Right.
Anyway.
So like, I don't have like, not to say that like, oh, I don't ever want anything. It's not like that, but like, there just aren't like, I'm not the type of guy that's like out there going to like purchase like small things all the time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my struggle too.
Speaking of Christmas.
Yeah.
Abyssin, this episode of Worlds Beyond Number.
Bro. Should we just...
we should just get into it.
Okay, because... Well, I know we do our recap first, but I just can't wait. I think this may be the best episode of Worlds Beyond Number.
Wow.
I've got more to say about it. I've got my ways to explain it here in a minute, but that's your little teaser.
What a take.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But first, let's do our quick recap, especially since it has been a bit longer between episodes because of the extra week break. So you know the drill. We're going to cut out this recap, host it separately for your catch-up convenience. And if you happen to be just on that recap, we will link to our full discussion in the description below. Do you happen to know the title? Oh, it's Abyssin, right?
Abyssin.
Yeah. That's easy. All right. Let me pull up my notes here. So, episode 38, we pick up with Suvi, Ame, Ursulon, and their small little kind cadre of wizards and I've totally forgot what the other type of wizards were called. The Azure Battalion. There we go. Going on this silver rescue mission. They've arrived in Abyssin, and we were kind of left on this cliffhanger of Suvi and Silver finally getting in contact with one another. And Silver saying that, like, hey, it's not the best situation, basically. So we pick up with that. And Silver's message is, I knew you'd come for me, but you have to understand what we've been fighting. Is there something you can tell me that only you would know? So Suvi then mentions, I believe, a bracelet that kind of lets Silver know that this isn't some trick or trap, and this is indeed her. And so he's like, okay, thank God. So he then basically tells Suvi the situation rep, what they've been dealing with, how they are basically trapped in this lumber mill. It's their last defensible position. They've got about 30 people left, including the two big constructs, which have been like their last line of defense. They're all okay, but they haven't eaten in 2 days, and they're pretty sleep deprived. And we also learned that Adina and Zero are the only two Tamori left, which are like the living spells. So Suvi says, well, there's only 8 of us here, but you know what? We got this. So Suvi then fills in her team on what Silver told her, and they basically come up with a plan. And they quickly decide, okay, we need some sort of big distraction or something to get these people out of here, because we shouldn't fight. We just need to get. So thinking about the geography of this place and the waterfall, Suvi decides, okay, maybe we can dam the river up above the waterfall and then strategically release it to cause a bunch of chaos and a distraction for us to escape with. So that's the plan they go with, and they decide to, march north up the river a bit to see what that looks like and if they could make some sort of dam. What they quickly come to discover is this small island about 100 yards north of the waterfall, where there's a shrine, a small shrine to a spirit on it. So Ame and Ursulon go to this shrine, and there's this small statue of like a ram with a fish body and like a snake's tongue, I think as Brennan describes it. And Ame makes an offering at this shrine, and all of a sudden, this massive, like dragon-sized ram fish spirit like comes out of the water. And this may be me butchering it, but I believe their name is Skohorsen or Zohorsen, something along those lines. And this big entity is like, thank you. It's been a long time since I've gotten an offering. I appreciate your respect. And he basically immediately is trying to go back to sleep. And Ami's like, whoa, wait. We just wanted to, see if we could have your permission to use your river to help some of our friends escape. And he's like, yeah, great. I'm going to sleep. And then Suvi's like, wait. Will you? And like they're trying to figure out a way to like get him to like maybe help them flood the river, but they're like really fumbling with asking. So eventually Ursulon just steps in and he's like, brother, can you help us make a flood? And he's like, yeah, I got you. And so essentially what happens is Skohorsen rises up all of this like muck and debris and stuff that they will then be able to use to create a makeshift dam in the river. So that starts to happen, and all of the wizards, Suvi and Sworn and the Azure Battalion are using Mage Hand and, whatever spells at their disposal to like turn this stuff into a dam. And they're successful in doing it. So now the plan is basically, let's fill in Silver, which they do with the message spell, on what we're going to do. We're going to cause the dam, set it loose, cause this crazy commotion, and we'll try to escape during the chaos. So ultimately, Ame, Suvi, and Sworn are going to stay up at this dam while everyone else goes back down toward Abyssin to meet up with the soldiers once they escape. And they're basically going to wait for the signal. The 3 of them, Suvi, Sworn, and Ame, will set off the dam and then also go try to meet up with everybody else. So that's the idea. And as they're all setting this up, Brennan basically asks for a luck check from Aabria, from Suvi. And says, you're going to need a 14 on this, is what you're hoping for. And Suvi rolls a natural 1. And that's where I'll hand it over to you for the second half of this.
Yeah, so the back 20, 30 minutes of this episode, Brennan immediately calls for initiative. So everyone rolls their initiative. I think Suvi was first in the initiative order, and what she's basically doing is holding her shatter spell as an action until Silver and the other members of the Wizards group have escaped across the river. Unfortunately, the shapeshifters are coming up and attacking from the town of Abyssin and have effectively um, uh, pinned them down in the middle of this river. Meanwhile, Ursulon in full guardian mode is going to go in to attack. Um, there's also, Britain talks about these shapeshifters have taken some very interesting forms, one of which I think was a jaguar, which is pretty typical. I feel like everyone loves to be a jaguar as a druid. And then
Classic.
another one, a woolly rhinoceros, he says. So combat's happening. One of the big golems, like the constructs, gets sent down to the town to defend, and it gets immediately just eviscerated, just gets destroyed into rubble. The second construct is trying to defend the group. We have Sworn, who ends up, I think, casts a fireball on the attacking Abyssin troops. And then one of the Tremuri, Adina, I think, which was the shield spell,
Yeah.
essentially consumes herself and casts herself, whatever the language would be, to put the shield spell on the second construct that is now sort of the last line of defense from the people trying to escape. Ame casts Calm Emotions on Silver and the remaining troop, and to sort of like get them out of like this stalling mode. And it's in this moment that Silver remembers, I'm a commander, I'm a soldier, like I'm made for this, like I'm in control, and basically sort of snaps out of this stalling position and tells the other troops to retreat, to escape. We also get, I don't remember if this was a spell from Suvi or what this was, but something that creates a big fog, like a magical fog, also gets created to sort of protect their escape. Meanwhile, Ursulon is able to destroy the wild shape form of one of these shapeshifters. And this Gauthmai druid is essentially like, wait, you're a spirit. Why are you fighting with them? Like, you should be on our side. And Ursulon sort of readies his shield to show, like, hey, I'm not backing down from this. It's also around this moment that Silver actually casts Fly and like bolts up to Ursulon, and I think casts Lightning Bolt on one of the Gauthmai that are here in this combat, destroys that person, and I think Ursulon then like shoves the other one like off the cliff or something to that effect. All that to say, by the skin of their teeth, they're able to escape up the mountain pass as the second construct is torn down, and seemingly have been able to escape from Abyssin relatively unscathed. And that is where our episode comes to a close. Episode 36?
I think
35?
38, I think.
38, way off. Episode 38, Abyssin. And if you're watching just our recap, make sure you check out our full video for our full discussion.
Pop pop.
All right, let's start with this bold claim.
Yeah.
Best
So
episode of the series.
let me qualify. Cuz I literally had this I don't know, well I do know what it was about it, but like it was just like it was such a jam-packed hour. Like cuz it was like 53 minutes long. Like one of the
Yeah,
shorter
it
episodes.
was. Yeah.
But it was so like enthralling and entertaining the entire time that like I don't like length doesn't make something good or bad, but like it didn't feel like 50 minutes. Like it felt like I just
Yeah,
like
it's
watched a
good.
whole movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here's what I even had this thought like cuz when I was listening to it, I was realizing like how much I was into it and how good I thought it was. And I even had the thought of like, is this what I would call the best episode of Worlds Beyond Number? And I thought to myself that that's almost weird because it doesn't contain the things I would normally point to that make me
Mm,
love Worlds Beyond Number. Like, and that's not to say that there weren't good things in the episode, obviously, but like this
right.
was a super heavy combat episode. And I would
Yeah.
typically say the things I love are the other stuff, like the
Yeah.
really deep emotional RP moments. And there were like pieces of that in this, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think just and we do this every time, but I especially have to do it today. Taylor Moore, I don't know if you're listening, you beautiful bastard, but this was such a beautiful, like, curated experience. Like, it really was like just the score and the moments.
Yeah.
It felt like an experience that I was having, and it just felt like it never let up. I guess like there was no dull moment, and that's not to say that everything was action, but like even in the slower parts, I was just so interested the whole time. So I don't know. I think it largely speaks to what Taylor did more so than the actual like contents of the episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was just like really enthralling. And some of that could be like my own headspace. You know what I mean? Like just where I was at when I was happening to be listening to it. But I like had all of these thoughts while I was listening, and I was like, wow, I think this might be what I would say is like the most not interesting is not the right word, but like the most compelling or the best episode I've had so far.
It was definitely a good episode, and Taylor did a great I mean, it was definitely an also well-produced episode. Like, even, like, the Nat 1 the Nat 1 roll where, like, the
Yeah.
music just is like, "Da-na-na-na," which was, like, a really nice Worlds Beyond version of Womp Womp.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a good episode. I think my favorite probably would be, just off the top of my head, the finale of chapter 2 when they're escaping from Indri's castle, which is also, like, kind of a high stakes, very
That'd
fast
be
paced.
chapter 3 though, right?
Chapter 3. Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Chapter 3.
Yeah, no, like I would probably agree. That might have been my previous favorite.
Yeah.
Um but yeah,
Um,
it was just so like the score, man, like there's like that one moment where there's like a literal like choir in the background. I don't know if that's the right
yeah,
word. Um
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
it just elevated it so much for me.
Do you
And
think
go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, do you think it could have gone worse? Because it's things all the boxes kinda got checked. Like, they got through it relatively unscathed.
No, the things went as good as they really could have, I would say. I mean,
Mhm.
even with a nat 1. Um but yeah, I mean, they're obviously not out of the woods yet, I would say, cuz like, they're still deep behind enemy lines with a bunch
Right.
of deteriorated
A
troops, but
a
like
ton of people.
yeah, but as far as like the actual escape from the lumber mill, like that went off almost perfectly. Um
There's a lot of Brennan fodder for him to play with, because
yeah,
it's 30 soldiers, I think.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Which I don't want to lose too many my trains of thought here because there's a couple different things I want to talk about. Okay, this I think it makes sense to talk about it here. Just as like a DM, this is something that I thought about while listening to the episode. Is one, if I was in the players' positions at the beginning of the episode when they're basically thrust into like these are the stakes, like 30 soldiers, no food, no sleep, 200 bad guys just waiting for them to die. Good luck. Like, I don't know. I was trying to think, like, as a player, I don't know what my plan would be. Like, so the fact that they came up with that waterfall idea, I thought was genius. And then it made me wonder, like, and not that you need foresight on this, but it made me wonder how much Brennan like baked that in for them. I know I I can
Sorry,
repeat that if
my
you no, you're
yeah,
good.
no, my son, like, just swung open the door and looked at me, then walked away. So,
It's a power
I
move.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
Normally I keep it locked, and I just didn't lock it.
No worries, man.
If you don't
So
mind.
so what I was saying is like thrust into that situation as a player, like that's your problem to solve.
Yeah.
I was trying to think, I don't know how I would solve this. So them coming up with the waterfall idea was I thought very clever.
Yes.
Now and this is one comment we've talked about before, but I'll go ahead and say it here because it makes sense. We don't know how much fluff is left on the editing room floor. Like maybe the three of them sat for 45 minutes trying to come up with a plan and then they
Yeah.
ultimately landed on the waterfall thing, or maybe Aabria came up with that instantly. Beside the point. But so I wondered as a DM, because like I just wonder if Brennan, like when he was constructing this encounter in his mind, did he like specifically include the geography of the waterfall and the lake, thinking that that would be an out for his players, or was that just kind of like a happy coincidence? Um, and then, and you know, I certainly don't know what's in Brennan's mind, but to me, it felt like the shrine being there was something he, in the moment, added for them to be like, okay, I've seen you've come up with this cool idea. Here's how I'm going to help you facilitate that now. But I was just curious for your perspective on that, on both things. Like, did you two think that like he kind of added that spirit there to help, like not to help them, like they needed it,
Yeah.
but you know that was like an in the flux type of decision? And do you think like the
Yeah.
waterfall was something he even placed in Abyssin to help them, or is that just player creativity that he went with?
Not really knowing his prep process, I would assume the geography was just the description of the place, and Brennan was comfortable with like, yeah, what do you guys want to do? Let's
Yeah,
figure this out.
I agree.
The shrine definitely felt like a ad lib in the moment. Not in a sense of like it wasn't well done. It was extremely well
Yeah, yeah,
done.
yeah.
I'm just more just admiring Brennan's improv, really. Um, I think sometimes as a DM, it's good just to give your players sort of like the pieces on the board and then just let them see what they're going to do with it within reason.
Yeah.
They had a lot of options. I think what's frustrating is when there aren't a lot of options or clear signals. And I think Brendan probably would have, if they had been stumped. I think Brendan probably would have, pushed
Yeah.
the direction in some way, which could have been totally different. I don't know.
I agree. So that would be both my takes as well. And yeah, I don't think there's that wasn't trying to bring any baggage to that question. I think it's great and a good lesson for both sides of that right there, because like I probably, and who knows, maybe Brennan did intentionally include the waterfall because he wanted that to be something they did, but I would stand to guess probably not. So I think it's cool that the players then come up with this creative idea based on the
Mhm.
landscape that the DM gave them, and then the DM working in tandem with that kind of presents them this spirit and this opportunity to accomplish their idea.
Yeah,
I know.
it felt like pretty. This episode felt not immersion oriented, but like very D&D esque. Of
Yeah.
like, there's a waterfall. Let's create a flood,
Yeah.
and it all worked. But I could just see myself at that table, like trying to through duct tape put together this idea to get this to the solution that I want.
Yeah. So I always just those are always just like good learning moments for me, because like, and not that not that I'm ever trying to be the DM that's like trying to frustrate their players or anything, but like if we can call that a puzzle, the
Mhm.
situation they were faced with, then I definitely know some DMs that would like, oh, you can't just make a flood. You know what I mean? Like that, like like they maybe have some other idea or set of ideas that need to be the way that that's handled, and then a cool creative idea like that, just working with them, I thought was cool. Which
Yeah,
of course Brennan's going to be that type of DM, but
yeah,
um,
for sure.
also really cool spirit. Just if especially if it was just improv
Yeah,
right then.
yeah.
Um, so that
Um,
was fun.
So what do you think happens next? Like, do you think they're gonna get chased, or is this troop is the Gouthby army gonna be like, well, we were kind of just waiting them out anyway, what do we care?
Yeah, I think it's we're gonna split the difference. Like I think they're not out of the woods yet, but like all 200 forces aren't coming after him, I bet. But there was that specific mention of, well, we know there are shape changers. Some of them have been dealt with, but then there are also those beasts that were like, I can't remember the word, but like lounging around the like base of the city, which I feel like 2 episodes ago that was like kind of singled out as one of the reasons they hadn't tried to flee yet, because it's like they'd get hunted down because they're these like weak soldiers. So I imagine like there will be more of an encounter perhaps, or at the very least they're not just like, okay, we made it out, what are we doing now? Like it's still going to be like a pressing situation, I guess.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because to get here, they had to be incredibly stealthy,
Yeah,
and now there's 30 plus of them.
right. And I think they said they weren't going to go back the way they came.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they will end up doing that. But like they were like riding fast on horses for like half a day, right, to get there.
Right. Right.
Now they don't. They still have a couple horses, but they certainly don't have horses for everybody. So like we're
Right.
looking at multiple days travel, I would assume, to get
Right.
back to where they were. So I don't know what they're gonna do.
I think it was like a day and a half or 2 days travel, like on horseback. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at 4 or 5 days, I guess, with like starving soldiers.
Yeah, I guess.
So
Yeah, I mean maybe no. I was gonna say maybe some of like the wizards have spells that could hasten their journey, but I mean I guess clearly none of them have like teleport, or else they would have already used that. But yeah, I don't
right.
know. Like so, it was a nice victory, but they're certainly not out of the fire yet.
I'm just looking at my phone. Is there's not any delay tomorrow, right? Or have they said anything about the schedule?
I haven't I haven't seen in terms of like a delay, I definitely haven't seen. But in terms of like just like a holiday schedule, if that's what you mean,
Or hit my
I also
microphone.
haven't seen them talk about this month. But I think an episode's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Let me look at something as well, really quick.
We've had a lot of short episodes this chapter.
Yeah, and then you know, so this episode was delayed a week from the normal release schedule. It was also shorter, but the short this felt like a very great place to end the episode. Plus, I think in
Mhm.
the way that this was produced, it just was all killer no filler. Anyway, what I'm getting at is I wonder if, because somebody was sick, that's why this episode was late last week or whatever. I wonder if like I guess I just don't I don't know the like the production schedule well enough to really say here, but like I guess they would have let us know if that was still like
A
something.
possibility.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Let's-
Well, so presumably they're going to be on their escape tomorrow when the episode drops, I guess. Um, man, I guess we're going to get a pretty good understanding of the path forward with tomorrow's episode. A lot of people, some of them starving, not going back the way they came. Presumably, maybe some Gauthbai on pursuit behind enemy lines. It's like having 30 Owen Wilsons, like you can't just run
yeah.
out, you gotta,
Wow.
but
Yeah, I
yeah,
wonder even if so like in a more grand sense of the narrative, we know that Silver's distress call is what brought the trio back together because Suvi requested their help. So now they've technically saved him. They're obviously not in the clear yet, but I wonder if there will be like maybe the story for the trio doesn't see these 30 soldiers all the way back home. Like maybe they split off. Like maybe there's some narrative reason where like, okay, thanks, we got it from here. You need to go do this now. Like, So like maybe that happens and we don't spend an episode traveling with them. I don't know.
yeah. Maybe Silver's like, oh, hey, you guys take it from here. I'm gonna go with Suvi. And they're like, you're our leader. What?
It's like, wait. No,
So
I think he would probably have to stay with the rest of them, but who knows?
sworn, you take it from here. It's like, wait, what?
Well, I guess the ship though. The ship's coming back to that city. So
Yeah,
unless
that's
Suvi
true.
would abandon the ship, I guess maybe that she wouldn't go her own way. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they don't have Fire. I forgot what his name was. Firebird to take them somewhere else. So
Old Fifi.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
yeah, I don't know because again, even though they haven't finished this silver mission, like that, like what's next for them, right? Because that's why they came back together. So is not like, are they going back to Ursulon's family's house? Like, is that going to be the next stop? I guess if nothing else happens first. Um, yeah, I'm curious what direction they're going to take it, especially like we knowing this is the last chapter of book one or whatever. Like, I'm curious, like what kind of mini climax are we building toward here? Like, what will this arc be about? Like, there's no
Mhm.
way we're gonna like finish the Citadel. I don't want to call them like the bad guys, but like, there's no way that's gonna like resolve, right? I don't know.
Right. Right. No, I think you're right. Um, yeah, it seems like there has to be more to this escape to lead up to a compelling climax. But maybe it's we got it out of Abyssin, and Brennan's gonna put down the set pieces for the next big part of the escape. Like, hey, we made it out of Abyssin, but there's a valley filled with soldiers that we have to get past somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm interested nonetheless.
Yep.
Well, is there anything else from not much to talk about, but it was also a pretty short episode.
Um. Yeah. I am curious. We talked about this last time there was a combat episode, but like, how much I'm curious, but especially in this episode, it was like split party, right? Like, because Ursulon was doing something over here, Suvi was doing something over here. I wonder at that table how much theater of the mind it is, or like if they had battle maps and minis out for all of that. In the way it's presented to us, it makes me feel like it's all theater of the mind, but I wonder. And
Yeah,
not
I
that it
guess.
matters. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I guess since Taylor, we don't know what is getting cut, but we're also not hearing like, okay, I'm going to move 5, 10, 15 feet this way.
Right.
It does sound like it's theater of the mind for them as well. Which hats off to them because it's not always easy to
Yeah.
do that.
But and again, like maybe this isn't like a fair compliment to give because for all we know, there's 2.5 hours of like battle stuff happening that just didn't make it into the episode. But I thought Brennan did a fantastic job of handling a split party like that. It all felt very like seamless and on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. But that might be more Taylor for all I know.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's just another reason why I thought this episode was so good because it was just I guess I was like on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah.
And
Well, let
then
us know. Oh, sorry.
or yeah, I
Go
was just
ahead.
gonna say one moment I really loved was Erika's calm emotions moment.
Yes.
Um just cause like that was such a like a creative decision in that moment. Like cause it's all hell's breaking loose, right? And I think most people probably don't see much value in a calm emotions spell, at least in that circumstance. So I thought it was really cool that one she had that idea and that Brennan also like capitalized on that and made it like such a big moment.
Yeah, it feels like you should really, as a DM, reward your players' creativity. And to do that, like I think the reason a lot of players don't do that kind of stuff is because the dopamine hit of Eldritch Blast or whatever attack you're gonna do, it's a lot
Yeah.
more present, you know? So when your players do something that isn't damage oriented, I think it's really important to reward that and reward that creativity. Which Brennan, we had not only did it work, but we had a really cool description of how Silver was like remembering his training,
Yeah.
remembering being a soldier. Um, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty
Pretty cool.
cool.
Pretty cool.
Um, but yeah, I think let me, I'll do the old once over really quick, but since this was such a quick episode, I don't think I had too much else to really say.
Well, let us know what you guys thought about the episode. And don't forget, we do have a Discord where we can chat about some Worlds Beyond Number. So you can check that out in the link below. But other than that, I think that'll do it.
Yeah. Quick one today.
Well, an awkward goodbye.
Classic. Alrighty, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.